No one knew that would be the last time he ever smiled. No one ever thinks the most normal days are the ones that haunt you the most later. That morning in central Vietnam felt like any other. Overcast skies. Thick mist clinging to the trees. Birds calling deep in the jungle. Dry leaves crunching under the boots of the morning patrol. Somewhere in the distance, a Huey thumped steadily overhead, like the heartbeat of this war. I remember the smell most. Damp mud. The lingering tang of old gunpowder from the firefight the evening before. Smoke that never quite cleared. Instant coffee in dented metal cups. And Martinez swearing at his lighter again like clockwork. "Damn thing misses home," he muttered, flicking it repeatedly, then flashing his usual crooked grin. Martinez could always find something to smile about, even in a leaking tent during monsoon season. He was Mexican-American, with a head full of curls and a face that looked like it was built to laugh. Being around him made you forget where you were, what you were holding, and how likely it was that you might not see tomorrow. We had breakfast together, dry crackers, canned pâté, coffee so bitter it could wake the dead. Martinez pulled a worn photo from his pack. His girlfriend, long dark hair, white dress, standing in front of a church. "Take a good look," he said like a kid showing off a trophy. "If I make it home, I'm marrying her. Don't care what my mom says." I laughed. "If she's still waiting, that is." He flipped me off. "That's why I gotta make it home, man." That's the strange thing about war. Those quiet, ordinary moments are when you feel most human. We shared cigarettes. Sipped bitter coffee. Talked about everything that had nothing to do with war. Music, movies, home, moms, women. As if talking about the world beyond this one could keep it real, could anchor us to something that still made sense. Martinez told me about the first time a new recruit called him "sir." Said one word, then puked all over my boots. He grinned like it was the best story he had. I remember laughing. Not because it was funny, but because I couldn't remember the last time I'd laughed like that. Then someone yelled, "Time to move out." We stood, packed up. Martinez slid the photo back into his rucksack, gave the girl in the picture one last gentle stroke across her face. No one knew that would be the last time he ever smiled. We moved out just like we always did, tight formation, eyes scanning the jungle, fingers wrapped around the trigger. That day was supposed to be routine. A sweep of a small village we'd passed by the week before. Command said there were signs of movement, maybe Viet Cong, maybe just shifting shadows. Out here you never really knew. The air was thick, wet, the kind of humid that made your shirt stick to your back within minutes. Each breath was filled with the smell of rotting leaves, mud, and the faint metallic scent of old gunpowder. I remember the sound of boots squelching in wet dirt, and the constant hum of insects in the distance, like a soundtrack you never wanted but couldn't turn off. Martinez was a few steps ahead of me. He kept glancing back, half smiling like he wanted to say something but didn't. Maybe he didn't need to. At that point in the war, a look between us said more than words ever could. The wind moved through a patch of bamboo by the village edge, making a sound like paper being torn. As we got closer, I felt the quiet shift into something unnatural. But no one said anything. No one wanted to be the first to say they were scared. We reached the outskirts just past noon. A few chickens wandered between the wooden huts. A bicycle leaned against a tree. A thin trail of smoke curled from a distant cooking fire. It looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Too still. Our squad leader signaled us to spread out. 3-man groups, clear each house. I was with Martinez and Thompson. I think that was his name. We moved toward a small hut with woven bamboo walls and a palm leaf roof. The door was slightly open. No sounds inside. Martinez stepped forward and opened it. Then everything happened too fast to think. A shout. A flicker of light. Then, boom. The hut exploded. I was thrown back into the mud, face first, ears ringing, chest burning. Splinters, ash, and smoke filled the air. Everything was sound and blur and shock. When I came to, I looked up and saw Martinez lying there. Motionless. Half his body was buried under charred beams and splintered wood. His eyes were open, staring straight at me, like he was still waiting for a punchline to some dumb joke he hadn't finished. But his mouth didn't move. No breath came out. I dropped to my knees beside him. I called his name. Once. Twice. More. No answer. Thompson had a gash across his arm, blood pouring down. He was shouting something but I couldn't hear. My ears were still ringing and everything in my head was spinning. And I didn't cry. Not because I didn't feel it, but because something inside me had frozen. I didn't cry. Not because I didn't hurt, but because I was no longer myself. When the backup squad arrived, I was still sitting there, covered in mud, hands shaking, mind blank. An officer asked me what happened. I just looked at him, then looked back at Martinez, lying there like a man who fell asleep in the middle of a nightmare. Only he wasn't going to wake up. They pulled his body out, covered him with a tarp, and took him away. No one said a word. No one offered condolences. No moment of silence. That night, no one in the unit mentioned his name. No one asked if I was okay. Everyone just kept moving. As if loss was part of the job, just another number, another checkbox. No one paused long enough to mourn. But I couldn't move on like that. I remember lying awake for hours, staring at the roof of the tent, the explosion echoing over and over in my ears. The sound of snapping wood. The silence after. His eyes. That moment over and over like a reel I couldn't turn off. That's when I knew something had broken inside me. Not a bone. Not a muscle. But my belief that I still had control. That I was still a person. From that moment, I stopped hearing the jokes in the squad. Stopped seeing that look Martinez used to give me. There was only silence. And a space where he used to walk, eat, sleep, and laugh beside me. And I knew from that day on, I would never be the same. We kept moving the very next day. No one talked about what had happened. No one said Martinez's name. Not a single question, not a sympathetic glance, not a word of comfort. It was like he had never existed. He vanished from the formation as if he'd been erased. But I kept seeing him, in the trees, in the empty space beside the fire, in the silence where his laughter used to be. Everyone else just walked, rifles slung over shoulders, eyes forward. I walked too, but my head, it was empty. My body was going through the motions, but inside there was only white noise. I heard the wind, the bugs, the orders, but it all sounded far away, like I was hearing through thick glass. The world blurred. I felt like I wasn't even there. At night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, it came back. The explosion, the flash, the weight of his eyes staring at me. The smoke, the blood, the scream I wasn't even sure I heard. It played over and over in my mind like a broken film reel, skipping and repeating, skipping and repeating. I started fearing sleep. I stopped talking as much. No more jokes, no cards, no small talk. A few guys noticed, but no one said anything. In war, everyone's got their own hell to deal with. There's no time to worry about someone else's storm. Food lost its taste. Everything was bland. Canned meat or dirt, it didn't matter. Coffee or warm water, no difference. I acted like a machine. Shoot when told, stop when ordered, move when signaled. But inside something was rotting. I kept asking myself, do I even deserve to survive? Martinez should have been the one who lived, not me. He had a girl back home. He had hope. He was kind. He lit up this damn jungle in a way none of us could. And me? I was cynical. Art. Already halfway gone. Why wasn't it me that died? That question stuck with me for weeks. Every time it came back, it carved something deeper inside me. I started dreaming of Martinez. But not as he was. I saw him lying in that broken hut, eyes open, lips moving like he was trying to speak. He asked me why I let it happen. Why I didn't stop him from going in first. Why I just stood there. I had no answer. And slowly I stopped speaking to anyone. Not because I hated them, but because I didn't feel like one of them anymore. They still laughed. Still talked about going home, about what they'd do after. I couldn't even picture a future. I only saw Martinez. In that moment, one afternoon, I sat alone under a tree and realized something in me had died. Quietly. No drama. Just gone. I no longer flinched at gunfire. No longer jumped when mortars fell nearby. I didn't get angry. Didn't feel sad. Didn't feel anything. Only emptiness. Since that day, I stopped hearing the voice of my own conscience. I used to know the line between right and wrong. I used to feel it in my chest, in my gut. But after that day, the line blurred. I started doing things I would have refused before. Not because I wanted to, but because I didn't care anymore. There was one time, we encountered a group moving through the jungle. Maybe villagers. Maybe not. One of them didn't stop when ordered. The shots rang out. I fired too. Instinct. No thought. No feeling. We found a woman shot in the leg. No weapon. No markings. Probably just gathering firewood. Maybe she wasn't. But I felt nothing. No fear. No guilt. No pity. And that terrified me the most. Not because I had done something wrong, but because I didn't feel it was wrong. That's when I understood why some soldiers never truly come home. Because that break inside, it's not just a crack. It's a shift. A collapse of something vital. When the voice inside you, the one that tells you who you are, what matters, what's right, goes quiet, you're not the same anymore. You're just a shell. Following orders. Breathing. Surviving. But no longer alive. That was me for the rest of that mission. I can't tell you the exact day I started to change. There was no dramatic turning point. No flash of realization. It was gradual. Quiet. Like something inside me slowly drifting away from the man I used to be. Before, whenever I received an order, whether it was patrol, search, or assault, I still felt something inside. A flicker of doubt. A twinge of fear. Pause. But after Martinez died, all of that vanished. I still did my job. Still gave commands. But my heart didn't move for anything. Whether it was ordering a sweep of a hut, pointing rifles at civilians, or firing warning shots at a shadow in the trees, everything became mechanical. I acted fast, sharp, efficient, and cold. I no longer flinched at gunfire. Didn't feel rage when a buddy got hit. Didn't feel pity when I saw the body of a Vietnamese boy lying face down in the mud. Just another body. Another day. Another mission. At first I thought it was toughness. That I was becoming a better soldier. But then I realized it wasn't strength. It was numbness. A slow death of emotion. I had become a shell, capable of pulling the trigger, of breathing, of surviving, but no longer capable of feeling. I remember one afternoon when our squad was holding a position near a patch of bamboo forest. A group moved toward us. Maybe villagers, maybe enemy scouts. They didn't stop. I gave the order to fire. No questions. No hesitation. We opened fire. All of them dropped. When we approached, there was an old woman holding a bundle of firewood. A young child, maybe 8 years old. And a man barely older than a teenager with a bullet wound to the neck, still clinging to life. I stared at him. Blood pulsing from his throat. Eyes wide and panicked. He was dying. And I felt nothing. No sadness. No fear. No voice inside telling me this was wrong. That's when I knew what broke inside me wasn't my heart. It was my conscience. After that, I started asking myself, if my mother saw me now, would she even recognize me? I didn't want to answer. One evening, I sat alone by the fire when someone walked over. Taylor, a tall, pale guy from Indiana. I hadn't talked to him much before. He usually kept to himself, scribbling in a little worn notebook. He sat beside me. Didn't say anything at first. We just stared into the fire together. After a while he asked, "You ever feel like you're dead but your body just hasn't gotten the message?" I turned to him. "Every damn day." Taylor exhaled slowly. "I miss home, but I'm scared of going back. I don't know what I'll bring with me." I nodded. I don't think I've got anything left to bring." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Taylor said quietly but with absolute clarity, "We're not American boys with rifles anymore." I looked at him. His eyes were empty, exhausted, but honest. "We're just hollow shells holding on to each other so we don't fall apart. We're not American boys with rifles anymore. We're just hollow shells clinging to each other so we don't collapse." I never forgot that line, because it was the truth I had been trying to avoid. We weren't soldiers. We weren't even people. We were just fragments of who we used to be, stitched together by pain, trying to make it through one more day. Since Martinez died, I had never felt safe again. Not because of bullets or booby traps, but because I knew I was no longer in control of myself. And I feared that one day I would do something unforgivable and not feel guilty at all. That's when moral injury truly rooted itself inside me. Not fear, not visible wounds, but the shame of knowing what I had done, and worse, the shame of no longer feeling shame. No doctor ever diagnosed me. No one ever said it out loud. But I knew. I knew it deeper than anything else. And the more I knew, the more I feared it. I came back to America on a dry, cold October afternoon. The airport was crowded. Flags waved from bus roofs. People cheered. There were hugs. A military brass band played songs that sounded like they belonged to some other world. And me, I stood there, pack on my back, eyes drifting through the crowd. I didn't feel anything. Not joy. Not relief. Not like I was home. Because part of me never really left Vietnam. Everyone expected me to get back to normal. My family welcomed me like a hero. Neighbors shook my hand, smiled. An old friend clapped my back. "Welcome home, soldier." I smiled, said little. But inside I wanted to disappear. I tried to live like a normal person again. Got a job. Dated. Laughed when I was supposed to. Answered when spoken to. But somehow everything felt off. Conversations about football, TV, the weather, they meant nothing to me. I didn't feel connected to anyone. My family tried. They cooked my favorite meals. My mom would place her hand on my shoulder when I stared too long out the window. My sister told jokes during dinner, trying to bring laughter back into the house. But I wasn't really there. Not because I didn't want to be, but because I didn't know how to be. I started jumping at loud knocks. Couldn't sleep. Or when I did, I dreamed of Martinez, of Taylor, of bodies, mud, blood, explosions. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, heart pounding. Driving, I scanned the roadside, looking for where minds could be buried. Walking through a marketplace, I scanned every face, every bag, every sudden movement. Once, at a grocery store, a little boy stared at me. Just a curious kid, that's all. But I couldn't take it. I left my cart, walked out to the car, and sat there for nearly an hour, shaking, sweating, unable to explain why. That's when I realized I had brought the crack home with me. Old friends invited me out for beers. I went at first. But as they laughed about old high school stories, joked about girlfriends, made plans for vacations, I felt like a ghost sitting among the living. I wasn't who they remembered, and they didn't know who I was now. Someone asked me, "Was it bad over there?" I just said, "Yeah." They didn't ask more, and I didn't offer more, because honestly, who would understand that kind of thing? Who could understand what it's like to pull the trigger on someone you never really saw, and then spend years waking up to their face in your dreams? To carry guilt for surviving when someone better didn't? To hear a child laugh and feel like your chest's been split open? No one would understand. So I stayed silent. And over time, that silence became my armor. One day, a woman I was seeing asked, "You never talk about the war. Doesn't anyone ever ask?" I answered, "Nobody really wants to know." She said, "I do." I looked at her for a long time. Then I just shook my head. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I was afraid. Afraid that if I started talking, I wouldn't be able to stop. Afraid that once she heard, she'd never look at me the same again. So I stayed quiet. I wrote instead. Fragments. half sentences, memories out of order. Sometimes just a smell, a sound, a single word. It was all disjointed. Like me, I came home, but not as the same person. I wasn't the 19-year-old kid who left, full of ideas and wide-eyed belief. I was a man with a crack running through his heart. A man who had learned that silence could be louder than gunfire. And the hardest part? No one could see the crack. I stayed silent for nearly half a century. Not because I didn't want to speak, but because I didn't know where to begin. And I didn't think anyone truly wanted to hear. I used to believe I'd take those memories to the grave. That no one needed to know. That it was better that way. Because every time I even thought about it, it felt like my chest was being crushed. Every time I looked back, I saw a version of myself I didn't recognize, and didn't want to. Then one day, I sat in a small circle, 8 plastic chairs in a U-shape, under soft yellow lighting, the faint smell of coffee and vinyl in the air. A local support group for war veterans held at a community center. I didn't come to talk, just to listen. But somehow, something in me cracked open. I don't remember who spoke first. Maybe it was an older man with white hair, talking about how he couldn't hold his grandchild without flinching. Maybe it was the woman beside me, sharing how her husband took his own life years after the war ended. Each story added a piece, and when it was my turn, I couldn't hold it back. My voice trembled. My hands clenched tight on my knees. I stared at the floor, afraid to look at anyone. The words came out slowly as if I had to rip them from my chest. I told them about Martinez. About that hut. About his open eyes that never blinked again. About the first night I stopped hearing my own conscience. About the day I realized I could look at a dying person and feel absolutely nothing. I spoke, then paused, then spoke again. My voice cracked. I thought I'd fall apart. But no one interrupted. No one pushed. No one asked why. They just listened. I stayed silent for nearly half a century. But it only took one person willing to listen, to save me from that silence. The meeting ended with a simple handshake. No dramatic praise. No, you're so brave. No, thank you for your service. Just a look, direct, unflinching, from someone who knew exactly what kind of weight I'd been carrying. That night, I sat in my car for almost an hour before I could go inside. And for the first time in a long time, I felt lighter. Not good. Not fixed. But lighter. Like I'd finally taken off a backpack of stone I didn't even realize I was still carrying. From then on, I started writing. Not just fragments. Real words. Real pages. I wrote about Martinez. About Taylor. About the woman we shot near the edge of the forest. The one whose name I'd never know. I wrote because I realized, if I didn't tell these stories, those people would vanish completely. And as long as I remembered them, as long as I could speak their names, some part of them would still be alive. Sometime later, I told the story to my wife. We'd been married for years, but I'd never really spoken about the war. She had asked once or twice, but I always brushed it off. Until one winter evening, I poured myself a small glass of whiskey, sat down beside her, and said, without ceremony, "Can you listen to something?" And I told her. Not everything, but the parts that mattered most. She didn't cry. She didn't hug me like in the movies. She simply reached over, placed her hand on mine, and stayed there, quiet, steady, present. She didn't say, "It's not your fault." She just said, "Thank you for telling me." And somehow, that was enough. Since then, I haven't worn silence like armor anymore. I still don't share with everyone. But when someone truly wants to listen, I tell it. And each time I do, I feel myself returning, just a little bit, back to who I used to be. Not to forget, but to understand. Not to erase it, but to forgive it. And not for anyone else. For me. Because I survived. And sometimes, survival means having the courage to face what you carry. I'm not telling this story for sympathy. I'm not telling it to be called a hero, or to prove that I've overcome something great. I'm telling it because I know, out there, there are people just like me. People who carry invisible cracks in their hearts. People who survived, but never really made it home. I know that feeling. The feeling of walking through each day like a shadow. The fear of sleep because your past won't let you rest. The desperate urge to scream into the world, but choosing silence because who would ever understand? I know. And if you're reading these words, or hearing them, I want you to know this. You are not alone. Moral injury doesn't leave scars on your skin. It won't show up on an X-ray. It won't make you limp or forget your name. But it's real, heavy, and more painful than any wound I ever carried on my body is the shame of remembering what you did. The haunting question: how could a good person do that? Do I deserve forgiveness? Do I deserve to live at all? And the worst part is, you carry all those questions alone. I carried them alone for nearly 50 years, until someone was willing to listen. They didn't fix me. They didn't give me answers. They didn't say the right thing. They just listened, and just that, cracked open something in the armor I'd worn for too long. After that, I could breathe a little deeper, sleep a little longer, live a little closer to who I once was. I'm no longer the young soldier I once was. I'm no longer the hollow man I became after the war. I'm someone trying, still, to heal. One step, one word, one day at a time. If you've ever been broken in a way that made you question who you are, if you've ever looked in the mirror and didn't recognize what stared back, I want you to know, that's not the end of your story. Sometimes healing begins with just one person willing to sit beside you. No judgment, no pressure, just quiet, honest presence. I don't have all the answers. I can't promise the pain will vanish. But I know this: sharing is the beginning of healing. If you're holding on to a story you've never told, if you think no one wants to hear it, know this: I do. And there are others like me, waiting to sit beside you, waiting to listen, just like someone once listened to me. Thank you for staying until the end of this story. If something in this resonated with you, leave a comment, just a single line. It doesn't have to be long. Just say, I'm here. And if you feel ready, share your story. Someone out there may be waiting to hear it.